good morning. We are going to look at how the academy makes up its mind, a brief historical overview, and then we are going to focus on a 1989 movie called My Left Foot, which was an Irish movie directed by Jim Sheridan and starring Daniel Day-Lewis, who won his Oscar for the best actor in the movie. So, the Oscars weren't called the Oscars in the beginning, they were called the Academy Awards. Even today they are known as the Academy Awards, but more popularly they are called the Oscars. How did they get the name Oscars? Now, there are several legends and several versions about the nomenclature of the Oscars. One is that a leading film journalist, he felt that the word Academy Award is too heavy, too serious, and it intimidates people. So, he just turned around and looked at the statuette, the Oscar statuette, and he said, so how are you, Mr. Oscar? He said, give it a more human touch and make it less intimidating. So, that was the story, that is one version. Second version is the great movie star Betty Davis, who was one of the finest female actors of her time, and she named it the Oscars because she had someone very close to her who was called Oscar, and therefore she thought that it's better, it's a more fitting, more appropriate name. So, there are several versions of the name, how the Oscars got the names, but popularly they are called the Oscars, but academically they are still known as the Academy Awards. Is there a politics? Yeah, so this is what we are going to discuss today. The key concept would be politics of awards. See, this is always a very interesting area to discuss. Awards too have politics. Of course, awards are based on merit basis, no doubt about it, but then there is a strong undercurrents of politics, and that has always been the case for any major award, particularly so for the Oscars. So, Oscars are not always entirely about artistic merits. This is important to remember. The studios, and we have already seen who are the major players in this. After all, the Oscars were developed by which studio? Any guesses? Good, MGM. The studio executive Louis Mayer, he wanted to position the film industry in a more hard hitting way, in a more aggressive way, and therefore the idea of introducing an award which will bring lot of attention to the film industry, also to the MGM. Now, so it was not purely altruistic reasons that they instituted the awards. It also is interesting to note that people who were the beneficiaries, especially during the inception years of the Oscars, they all belong to the MGM studio, something interesting. So, if you want an Oscar, go work with the MGM, that was the idea, but soon things changed, of course. So, the studios play a major part or an important part in positioning its product. And what is part of this so called positioning? Full throttle publicity, making the product visibility. You have seen it in recent years with Lagan. Okay. How was Lagan positioned? It is a task to make each and every Academy voter watch the movie. Okay. You can always send them the DVD. Earlier times it used to be the video cassette. Even before that they would have a special screening of the movies for the voters, but then things became more and more complex, more and more complicated. So, it was felt that it is no longer feasible to organize a screening for so many people. So, then people started pushing their products more aggressively, and particularly Lagan, the producers approached each and every Academy member, the voting members, and asked them to watched the movie, gifted them with the DVD, the video cassette of the film, and ensured that at least the movie got the right kind of visibility, and it paid off because it did get a nomination. Okay. And which movie won the Best Picture award that year? Exactly, the Best Foreign Picture award, pitted against Lagan. No Man's Land. Okay, and it's a war movie, and you all understand the importance of a war movie as opposed to a movie from India, which is full of colorful songs and dances and is about cricket. Okay, so there is a politics. Okay, No Man's Land dealt with a very topical theme, which is important to the Western world. India's colonialism, okay, peppered, the idea of India's colonialism peppered with songs and dances and beautiful items, it may not have been such a big draw with the academy, because the academy voters, the members also, they have some kind of a conditioning for what, for we are all, it's all very subjective. We like someone, we don't, it's a canon. Again, let's talk about the canon. So, sometimes we like some people, sometimes we don't like some people. Okay, sometimes we like a theme, sometimes we don't like a theme. Okay, so there are certain popular themes which always work well, and that's what we are going to look at. What makes the cut with the academy members? So, visibility, high campaign and PR, that is public relations, play major roles in making the products visible. And above all, why do all this? Oscars always spell big money. Even a small movie, if it gets even a minor award, by minor award I mean we know the top 5 awards: best actor, female actor, male actor, best picture, director, best movie. So those are the major awards, but even if it gets a technical award, editing, sound, etc., it pushes the movie into the limelight, and it makes, and if it's, because in abroad the release pattern is very different. Here we release a movie, and if it runs, it keeps on running. Okay, we don't interfere. There they book theaters for a particular period, and then it runs, it does well, even then it has to leave the theaters and it comes back. Okay, so Oscars mean they can re-release the product, now this time with better visibility. So that Oscars eventually translate into big money. I mean, there is a famous story. Are you aware of an actress called Ellen Burstyn? Requiem for a Dream? Yeah, she won an Academy Award for which movie? Alice Doesn't Live Here Anymore, directed by Martin Scorsese, his second major movie. Now, she couldn't for some reason attend the ceremony, and one of the presenters personally went to give her the statuette, and she says, how does it really matter? And he said, the presenter, the person, a big leading man, he had gone to her house to gift her the award, and he said, see, when you die, your obituary will read as the Academy winning actor Ellen Burstyn died on so and so day. So that's the difference it makes. Otherwise, you are just an actor, but when you win the Academy Award, you become the Academy Award winning actress. Okay, so it means something. It's very prestigious. People hanker after it. It influences a star's commercial prospect. Yesterday, while talking about Coppola, we did note that one reason why Paramount couldn't kick him out unceremoniously was because he won the Oscar for the best screenplay for Patton. Yeah, that was one reason why he could just hang on by the skin of his teeth. Okay. Reasons other than studio politics, age and image of the recipient. We are basically talking about directors, male and female actors. So, age and image of the recipients. Remember Christopher Plummer, when did he win the Oscar? 2012, right? in which he plays Evan McGregor's father, The Beginners. Okay, and he's a dying patriarch of this particular family. And how old is Christopher Plummer today? Some 84, 85. That means that he won his first ever Oscar. Yeah, the star of Sound of Music. Okay, and he must have given several blockbusters along the way. But age matters, and the Academy must have finally realized that this is, if it doesn't happen now, it may not happen ever. So, age and image matter. Image of an actor is extremely important, and we will see. Previous track record, yes, things do matter. And what do we understand by previous track record? Al Pacino, yes, Scent of a Woman was his 8th nomination, okay. And after what? Serpico, The Godfather Part 1 and Part 2, Dog Day Afternoon, okay. So, you cannot better that kind of body of work, but he got his Oscar when he was nominated the 8th time. Sympathy factors, give me some example. What is sympathy factor? Yeah? Well, that was a great performance, but of course, sympathy must have a role to play there. Yes? One of the greatest examples that we are often given is how Elizabeth Taylor won her first Academy Award. The second was for Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf. The first was for her role as a call girl in Butterfield 8. Now, many people feel that she had done a better job in several of her previous films, okay. But by the time of Butterfield 8, there were rumors that she is going to die of cancer and that she is being treated for something very fatal. And the Academy must have thought, okay, a beautiful woman dying much before her time, so why not? Okay. And then she came and she received her Oscar and collapsed into the arms of her then husband, her husband number 4, Eddie Fisher. And soon after that, she dumped him and married Richard Burton, okay, and then married him again. So, that is, yeah, so sympathy factors do matter. We were talking about age and image and previous track record. Look at Martin Scorsese, why go far? When did he win? 2006 for The Departed. Okay. The man who had made Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Goodfellas. Many people felt that he should have got the award for the Goodfellas, but then he didn't get it in 89, he got it in 2006 for a work which was a remake, yeah, of Infernal Affairs. Popularity with the industry and goodwill with the industry people is another important factor, and there are some people, nice regular all American guys like Tom Hanks, okay, they are popular, they are nice guys. Okay. Clint Eastwood always gets an honorable mention, yeah. So, they are the guys who matter, they are popular and they have led more or less a nice, a respectable, at least on the surface, okay, kind of life. So, that matters, goodwill matters. Box office bankability. Now, this is extremely important. An actor has to be bankable, a director has to be, their movies have to earn money, otherwise it does not mean anything to the Academy. Yeah, it just means lot of effort, lot of money, lot of investment gone waste because for an one-off thing, and we give it to someone who has never made it big, who is never going to make it big, just a fluke performance, brilliant performance, give him the Oscar. But you know, it does not work like that. There has to be box office bankability for that. Time of the release, this is very interesting. Christmas is supposed to be the best season because the film remains, and when is the Oscar season? February, March, and if you release your movie during the Christmas season, more and more people, you get more footfalls in the theatres. Okay, holiday season, everyone wants to go out, people watch movies, and it remains fresh in everyone's mind for the Oscar season. There are innumerable honorable examples where the movies got lost because the timing of the release was all wrong. They released their movies in April or May, by next year February it's all forgotten. Yeah.
Sometimes they give it to someone who has a very spectacular debut in the hope, like in the knowledge that they'll come up with some good work.
Yeah. Okay. That happens. For example, Roman Holiday. Okay. Audrey Hepburn. So the moment she made her debut, she was seen as this actor who is going to make it big. But then remember, Roman Holiday was directed by who? William Wyler, one of the most bankable directors ever. Okay, he has a track record. That reminds me, I am going to ask, I gave you homework, Robert Town, if you did some research. And who did she star with? Gregory Peck. So you see, there was cushioning. There has to be, so that means major bankable studios, actors and directors are lending their support to this young lady. And if we give her an Oscar today, fine, you know, we do look good, and it's also a very safe bet because she is being backed up by these people. Okay, she is not making some small debut in some art house cinema, okay, which no one is going to ever watch, and she is never going to make it big. Now, notable losers round, but you can go on adding to this list. There are too many notable losers. How Green Was My Valley won instead of Citizen Kane, the best picture. We have already talked about the unfortunate Mr. Orson Welles. Okay. The only good thing I think personally that came out of his Hollywood stint would have been his marriage to Rita Hayworth. He was married to the glamour queen of those times. Okay. In the Heat of the Night beat Bonnie and Clyde, and now no one remembers In the Heat of the Night today. Bonnie and Clyde is iconic movie. Scorsese's Taxi Driver was completely ignored, even the actor wasn't recognized, but the actor has been more fortunate than others because he got his first Oscar pretty early in his career. Out of Africa won over Spielberg's The Color Purple, and Spielberg was extremely unhappy. He has been working with sharks and all kinds of evil monsters, Raiders of the and Indiana Jones, etc. Okay, and then he felt that Color Purple, which is all about gender inequality, racism in America, based on a novel by Alice Walker. Yes, respectable material, it deserved an Oscar. He was a bankable director, he had a proven track record, but it didn't. So, Goodfellas, of course. Hitchcock never won an award, and he was just tossed a bone called Lifetime Achievement Award, and he gave the shortest ever speech, you know, on the stage. What was it? Thank you. Okay, that's all he said. Charlie Chaplin Lifetime Achievement Award, again the same year when The Godfather was given all its awards. So, Richard Burton, the great Richard Burton, nominated 7 times, never won. Okay. And let me tell you, if you look up Richard Burton, he is one of the greatest ever anywhere in the world. He can easily rank alongside Marlon Brando and Laurence Olivier. Richard Burton, but never. Peter O'Toole, never. Okay, so that brings us to the idea of Lifetime Achievement Awards, which is pretty much evident in even our system. Okay, we know that they are bankable, we know they are hugely popular with the masses, right? But we don't want, we have this infra-dig attitude towards these people. So, let us not give them a very popular award. Has Govinda ever won?
I think so, much earlier.
Maybe debut, but look it up. Do you think, how many of you feel that Govinda is a good actor? Nobody feels that Govinda is a good actor? No? Seriously? Okay. I think Govinda is a very good actor. Okay, you give him a role and he delivers. Okay, but you see, we have an attitude towards certain people. They come from this kind of a background. They do a certain kind of films. They don't speak the way we want them to speak. Perhaps all these things do matter. So perhaps those who can't get the mainstream awards, they are given generally a lifetime achievement award. Hitchcocks, Chaplin's, many more. In our own situation also you can see, when we can't give an award to someone, we give that a lifetime achievement award. So, history of all the Oscar awards. It was Louis B. Mayer who established and introduced the idea of having popular awards. It was like bunch of people coming together and patting each other or patting themselves on the backs, very wealthy people, and they feel, okay, it is not enough to earn enough money, but we also need some token of appreciation for our art. So, let us give these awards to each other. So, that was the attitude, and funnily enough, the first ever Academy Awards were announced beforehand that XYZ is going to win, please come and attend the party. So, people knew beforehand, it was not like all hyped and suspense was not built up the way it is done today. The first ever Academy Awards, so again this is a date, you should know it if as students of film history, May 16, 1929. Why it was called Oscars? Several versions float about it. The first acting award was given to a German actor, Emil Jennings, okay, for a movie called The Way of All Flesh, based on whose novel? Samuel Butler. Janet Gaynor was first female actor, and she was awarded for her body of work during the same year. One of her famous movies was Seventh Heaven. Those were the pre-television days. Publicity and visibility was not that massive. Winners were announced beforehand. However, William Randolph Hearst, we never get over this guy. We have already discussed him in Citizen Kane. Yeah. So, he is the man who owned several newspapers and magazines, and he felt that, look, this is a tremendous opportunity for garnering publicity for his papers, glamorizing news, sensationalizing news, and hyping up the whole thing. There is money here. He was also on very friendly terms with several female actors, and he felt this is a very good way of promoting them, okay, one of his proteges. Okay. So, he did his level best to make the Oscars the most sought after prizes, and therefore, the hype. So, any questions, any comments you want to make before we go? And I am going to do a case study of My Left Foot, Daniel Day-Lewis, who won, and I am betting on Daniel Day-Lewis this year as well, and he has already won. In 2007 or 2008, he won the Academy for yet another performance, There Will Be Blood, Paul Thomas Anderson. Now, Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master is also one of the nominated films. Argo is a strong contender, okay, and all those people who have acted in it. I am still betting on Daniel Day-Lewis, Lincoln. So, that makes me hark back to My Left Foot, 1989, and it is often called the year the Academy got it almost right. Many preconceived notions, many of the attitudes, prejudices, misgivings were dispelled. Box office bankability, yes, we are going to look at it, who were his rivals, and that will give you enough idea, and why we often say this was the year when the Academy got it right. So, nominees for the best picture that year, let us look at the best picture. Driving Miss Daisy, Warner Brothers. Born on the 4th of July, starring you know who, Universal Pictures. Dead Poets Society, Robin Williams, Touchstone. Field of Dreams, Universal, and My Left Foot. Granada, a lesser known studio, but distributed worldwide by Miramax. Best actor, Who won it that year? Jessica Tandy, Driving Miss Daisy. Isabella Adriani, the then companion of Daniel Day-Lewis. She too was the beautiful Isabella Adriani was also nominated for Camille. Jessica Lange for Music Box. Michelle Pfeiffer, another unfortunate actor who has never won it. Okay. Johnny Depp. Okay. The Fabulous Baker Boys and Shirley Valentine, Pauline Kael. Best actor male, Kenneth Branagh, Henry V, Shakespearean and British. Okay. So, two things for which the Academy members always had a soft spot for, British and Shakespeare. Okay, you know, that gives you the snob value. Robin Williams, Dead Poets Society, another is he is an academician, To Sir with Love kind of movie, right. So, it is always, it touches a chord with the members, very sentimental mushy movie. Morgan Freeman, tremendous actor, tremendous performance for Driving Miss Daisy, also the fact that he was black and age, okay. He has been acting for quite a while. Tom Cruise, born on the 4th of July, box office bankability, popularity, think of what he had done before that, Top Gun, Cocktail and Days of Thunder, all money spinners. Daniel Day-Lewis, My Left Foot. Now, this is the backdrop. Golden Globes and BAFTA often give an indication of what is going to happen. This year Argo has elbowed out several films and therefore, chances of Argo getting Golden Globes are pretty high, but not always, it does not always work that way, but it gives you a rough picture. So, born on 4th of July and Tom Cruise had already won the Golden Globe award for playing a paralyzed Vietnam veteran, Ron Kovic, based on a true story. So, you look at it, it is a war movie, it is Oliver Stone movie and Tom Cruise playing it, and what is he playing? A paralyzed Vietnam hero, okay. All pluses. Daniel Day-Lewis won the New York Critics Circle, the LA Critics Award and the National Society of Film Critics. We are talking about the canon, these are the canon forming bodies. Okay. My Left Foot is also a biopic of a paralyzed Irish poet and painter, Christy Brown, again a real life story, again paralyzed. So, it was billed as the battle of the wheelchairs, Day-Lewis versus Tom Cruise. So, battle of the wheelchairs. Born on the 4th of July, now look at the pluses again, it is an anti-war film, almost like the Deer Hunter and or that Oliver Stone trilogy, Platoon, etc. It is an Oliver Stone movie who was extremely hot during those days. He could do nothing wrong. It is part of his Vietnam trilogy, Platoon and Heaven and Earth. Vietnam is a popular theme with the Academy and its members. It was a huge commercial and critical success. Oliver Stone won the Oscar for the best director that year, and of course, the Tom Cruise factor. And of course, Morgan Freeman could not be ignored, widely respected and senior. Okay, so, those are the things, age matters, experience matters. And Driving Miss Daisy, it won the best Oscar for the best picture and also for the best actor, Jessica Tandy, the 80-year-old leading lady. PR machinery, the public relations machinery for the Academy, the bigger the studio, we are talking about that Universal Studio versus Granada. So, better are the chances when it is bagged, the movie is bagged by a bigger studio. Big pictures gain more visibility and the Academy voters tend to watch more of high profile movies than obscure little movies like My Left Foot. So, the movie, in spite of its brilliance, did not stand much of a chance. It was a small budget, modest movie, Irish movie made independently. It belongs to a category of so called indie cinema, okay, independent cinema, not backed by studios, okay, financed by studios, yes, distributed but not fully backed by studios. Actors, producers, directors, they all have to pitch in for their own, with their own funds, etc. Most people were not even aware of the existence of this movie. The producers of My Left Foot mailed several thousand video cassettes, those were the days of the video cassette, to the Academy's voting members, and of course it was marketed by Miramax, so it improved its chances. A word about Daniel Day-Lewis. Today he is a legend, but then he was still not a very well known actor, a British actor of Irish ancestry. He is the son of the famous poet Cecil Day-Lewis, who was also poet laureate at one point. He lived in Ireland. He has done plenty of theatre, so he was a trained actor, a method actor. That is very important to remember. How Tom Cruise, flamboyant and charismatic, is not a trained actor. Day-Lewis is a very serious and trained method actor. His previous works, and they are now, this is important to note, My Beautiful Laundrette, directed by, based on a play by Hanif Qureshi and directed by Stephen Frears, who later directed The Queen, if you remember, Helen Mirren's Dangerous Liaison, okay, that great Stephen Frears. And Daniel Day-Lewis had also acted in Milan Kundera's The Unbearable Lightness of Being, a very difficult role, Zack Doctor, and E.M. Foster's A Room with a View, directed by Merchant Ivory, Ismail Merchant, James Ivory. So, look at his body of work and a range. Only 3 movies, not blockbusters, but which sufficiently displayed the actor's tremendous versatility. What was his method? It is about a painter and a writer, Christy Brown, who is completely paralyzed. He suffers from an ailment called cerebral palsy. The only part of his body that functions is his left foot. Okay. So, Day-Lewis went through tremendous preparation for that role. He remained in a wheelchair throughout the shooting of the movie, okay, and would act as irascible as the real Christy Brown would be, because see, you look at the circumstances and you understand the moods, the temper, the mercurial temperament of the man, and he also maintained Brown's paralytic speech at all times, because his affliction was so severe, it had affected every part of his body. He was barely able to speak, and only people who were extremely close to him could understand, could comprehend what he actually said. Day-Lewis also practiced painting and writing with his left foot, and that has become the hallmark of all Day-Lewis's films. When he did The Gangs of New York, he trained as a butcher somewhere, okay, for several months.
Story about Gangs of New York. Apparently, he got pneumonia on the set.
Yeah.
And he refused to take penicillin because at that point of time in 1920s New York, there was no penicillin, so
he didn't want to go through. Yeah, that's method going too far.
he had to beg him to take.
Yeah. Okay. So, Day-Lewis known for getting inside the mind of the character, and he says, one of the things I am most intrigued by, and he is talking about his role, Christy Brown, is the character's inarticulacy. Christy Brown's struggle was to express himself, and that is the thing that I am always attracted to in a part. I have recently written a paper on Day-Lewis's method, and if you watch all his films, and there are very few films, he is very choosy, very picky, very fussy about his films. So, the body of work is extremely limited, but versatility is astounding. So, you watch a movie and you find basically he is interested in those characters which are essentially inarticulate, unable to express themselves. So, why the Academy Award? Now, Academy voters like British actors, that is a given. Academy voters also like biopics, that is also a given, and there is a method here. See, Desiree, Sergeant York, Patton, Raging Bull, Gandhi, Salieri in Amedes, Helen Mirren in The Queen, and Meryl Streep in The Iron Lady. All these are biopics. King's Speech, yes, Colin Firth, King's Speech. Oscar has a the Academy has a weakness for actors who play or who portray physical or any kind of disability, afflictions, addictions. Think the list is endless, you can always go on adding to the list, but my list of memorable performances include Jack Nicholson in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Marley Matlin in Children of a Lesser God. So, Dustin Hoffman in Rain Man, Pacino in Scent of a Woman, Colin Firth in The King's Speech, and Christian Bale in The Fighter. He is an addict, okay, and goes totally against the type. I mean, one year you have watched him in The Dark Knight, and next year you are watching him as, you know, someone who has transformed himself beyond belief, beyond recognition. So, Christian Bale is another worthy method actor. The versatility factor of Day-Lewis, people respected him as an actor, although there were only 3 movies, but people knew that he is a man who can perform, deliver. The difficulty of the role was extremely difficult to perform, and a voting member said, I saw him doing something I could not do myself. Okay, he did. And who said that? One of the greatest and most beloved leading men of all times, Gregory Peck. He confessed that what he is doing, I can never, what he has done, I can never do. So, Jim Sheridan, the director, and Day-Lewis, frequent collaborators, great friends, and they have often worked together. Following the astounding success of My Left Foot, they came together again in The Name of the Father, again a biopic of Jerry Conlon, someone who was wrongly imprisoned for Irish bombings in a British pub, yeah, IRA factor. And then The Boxer. Boxer is again about IRA. These are the things that fascinate Sheridan and Day-Lewis, and being you know, having strong Irish roots, they do frequently this kind of work. So, other works, notable works of Day-Lewis, of course, you can keep on adding to the list, but then you have The Last of the Mohicans, a blockbuster directed by the great Michael Mann. Scorsese's The Age of Innocence, based on Edith Wharton's book, novel of the same title, co-starring Winona Ryder and Michelle Pfeiffer. It won several awards, especially for costumes and art direction. Then he did an adaptation of Arthur Miller's The Crucible and ended up marrying the producer, that was Rebecca Miller, Arthur Miller's daughter. Okay. Then Scorsese's Gangs of New York, which is again a historical and based on a film, a novel, and won his second Oscar for There Will Be Blood, which was followed by a lackluster 9, which was a musical adaptation of Fellini's 8½. I want you to look at his movies, The Last of the Mohicans, The Age of Innocence, The Crucible, and Gangs of New York, also There Will Be Blood. Now, all these are essentially American characters played by an Irish man, great American heroes, great American characters played by a British Irish person. Okay, that itself tells you a lot about his range and versatility, that when it comes to and then Lincoln, of course. Okay, it does not get more American than Lincoln, and he gets to play Lincoln, the ultimate American hero. So, starting from Fenimore Cooper's Hawkeye in The Last of the Mohicans, which is all about physicality, and then Lincoln, which is mostly about inward struggle, the typical struggle of a man who is trying to change something around him, and his struggle with the society and the struggle within. Okay, so that, and you would be perhaps interested to know that in one of the American universities there is a core module for a film studies course entirely devoted to, and it is a core course, Daniel Day-Lewis and American history, because his contribution towards understanding of American history is unparalleled. Okay, as a method actor, now I will quickly summarize what I have been trying to say about method for the past several classes, as we have been talking about De Niro, Brando, Pacino. So, Orson Welles famously said, I have always made fun of the method, but I use a lot of things that are taken from it. So, method has something to offer. Originally, it's a contribution by Russian theatre director Stanislavski. So, it was called the Stanislavski method system. In the US, it was basically popularized by the exponents of the group theatre in New York City, and later on by people like Lee Strasberg, and Lee Strasberg is almost the godfather of method acting. He has coached the likes of Nicholson, Pacino and Robert De Niro. He has also acted in The Godfather, the second part. He is one of the dons, and in Justice for All, again with Pacino. Pacino always regarded him as a father figure. Stella Adler is another practitioner of method acting. The method is simplistically put, it means that the actor's main responsibility was to be believed, to create a believable character on screen, on stage. And Stanislavski first employed methods such as emotional memory, draw on from your own past experiences, however painful they are, and try to relate them to the to whatever is happening, whatever are the demands of the role. To prepare for a role that involves fear, for example, the actor must remember something really frightening from their personal lives and attempt to act the part in the emotional space of that fear they once felt. So, drawing on their memories. Now, this was a clear break from the previous modes of acting that held that the actor's job was to become the character and leave their own emotions behind. Okay, here they have to draw on from their own personal experiences, and this was more demanding, more challenging. Some of the leading practitioners, all time greats, Marlon Brando, Paul Newman, Monty Clift and James Dean. And if you look at the body of work of these people, you will understand what these actors were all about. Okay, they were not just some good looking men trying to enact a role. They were really actors. They were trained in New York, unlike the LA based studio system. And later on, of course, we have De Niro, Pacino, Nicholson, Dustin Hoffman, Sean Penn, Mickey Rourke, Liv Ullmann, a regular of Ingmar Bergman, Swedish actor, Emma Thompson, British, Meryl Streep, of course, American. And then more recent, more contemporary, we have Daniel Day-Lewis, Nicolas Cage, who was once upon a time a great actor. When he won Leaving Las Vegas, there were sparks. Adrian Brody, of course, Christian Bale, the late great Heath Ledger, Forrest Whitaker and Frank Langella. Frank Langella, a highly respected theatre actor who got his due in cinema much later, but is still one of the greatest. Can you mention some of his films? Who is Frank Langella?
Frost Nixon.
Good. Frost Nixon. He played Nixon too. And who is Frost? Who was Frost? I'll give you a clue. The same actor who played Tony Blair in The Queen. A shot from My Left Foot. Okay, so as the title itself would suggest, not too many well known names, not a big budget picture, but a tremendous performance by one of the greatest actors of all time. So, watch My Left Foot, okay, and understand what method acting entails. So, see you tomorrow, and you can make an announcement about tomorrow's class.